It is a Friday show. I'm excited. I'm excited for the weekend. I'm gonna go to Halloween Horror Nights on Saturday. My back already hurts. uh, Big football games. Football game last night. Cam Scattaboo, 3 touchdowns against me in fantasy. Thanks, bud. Yeah, Eagles go down. Sorry to my Eagle fan friends and family out there. Sorry. And countdown to crash out. Bears play the Commanders. It's Monday night, so I'll be okay Monday as well. But the countdown to crash out for Brett is on. I'm going to go ahead and blaze these types of shirts while I can, proudly. Yeah. Jets are on the Sunday morning game? Aye. Scotty's Jets, man. I'm excited. I'm excited about the weekend. I'm not excited about this. One of my predictions flat wrong. I'm making a lot more predictions. Randy said to me not too long ago, you got to make more predictions, Brett. You got to put it out there. You got to put it on the line. You got to make more predictions. So I started making few more predictions. Some have come true. If you put the money on the over on the shutdown, I'm about to cash out for you. We're at 10 today. Saturday it'll be 11. If we get to Sunday and the government isn't reopened, you cash out. I hope you went and did that. Hope you went and talked to Fat Sally or Tommy 2 Times or whoever it is that does the bookmaking for you. I hope you contacted them. That one I'm going to be right about. This one I wasn't. I said John Bolton will be the next one with a grand jury indictment. That's what I said definitively. I was wrong. He is not. There has been another indictment. It is on Letitia James, rather. There you go. I screwed up right out of the gate. Letitia James. We have been covering Letitia James right along with the Schiff, the Comey, the Bolton, the Cook, all of these mortgage fraud allegations coming out of Bill Holt and the FHFA. Okay? We've been covering it. We've been covering it for months. Everybody's been covering it. Everybody's been talking about it. Now Comey's been indicted. He's pleading guilty. He has a clever defense to get this thrown out. A 2-pronged defense. And that's going to be relevant here. We're going to talk about it. 1, the DOJ's been weaponized. We've been picked out because Trump hates James Comey. That's 1. The other one, Lindsay Halligan should not even be in that position. We talked about it yesterday. Pam Bondi made a mistake. She put Maggie Mary McCleary in as interim U.S. Attorney of the Eastern District of Eastern Virginia, U.S. Attorney of Eastern Virginia. Then immediately took her out and put Halligan in as interim. 120 days, then Congress confirms her. It's already been, the precedent has been set. And even Alito himself said the law is clear. Once the one interim goes in, a judge has to appoint the next one. A judge has to appoint the next one, not the Attorney General. Specifically not the Attorney General. So those are the 2 points where Comey's legal team are trying to get this case thrown out. All right, that is going to be relevant because now Letitia James has been indicted. Mortgage fraud. More of Bill Holt's handiwork. Out of the FHFA. His campaign of retribution, his arm of it, his responsibility. Refer all of these cases to the DOJ. We'll do a little bit of investigation. We'll cut our own IG out of it. We'll cut him out. And Holt will just refer all of these cases to the DOJ, which is highly unusual in and of itself. And here's the latest one. And she got an indictment. She got an indictment from a grand jury in Virginia. And Halligan herself brought the case. Very unusual. Very unusual for somebody of that stature, that high up in the courts to bring the indictment, in the district to bring the indictment. Very unusual. Why? Why was it unusual? Because this is garbage. That's why it's so unusual for Halligan to be bringing the indictment herself. It's garbage. Nobody wanted a part of it. Indeed, one senior attorney in that district said, yeah, I'm not doing this. I'm not bringing this case. I'm not working this case. This case is weak. This case is garbage. Said she won't be doing it. And everybody that works under her, she forbade them to take up any part in it as well, protecting them. Nobody wants a piece of this. Nobody wants a piece of this. Halligan, what'd she say? No one is above the law. The charges alleged in this case represent intentional criminal acts and tremendous breaches of the public's trust. Or not. Or whatever. Bleep you. We're doing it anyway. We're doing all of these anyway. And we don't care how legitimate it is. That's the point. Ed Martin said it himself. We're going to charge you. We're going to get indictments. Weak? That's okay. Evidence? No big deal. It's the shame. It's the damage to your career. It's whatever has to come out of your pocket. Whatever resources you have to spend to fight this. That's really the point. Ed Martin said it himself. He even said evidence. So Lindsay's out here. No one's above the law. No, you're not buying that? Whatever. We're doing it. What else did she say? Here, let her try again. The facts and the law in this case are clear, and we will continue to follow them to ensure that justice is served. Or not. Or whatever. Doesn't matter. Bleep you. Bleep you. Rule of law. Scales of justice. Bleep you. We're doing it. That's it. We're doing it. Now, this is over a $109,000 loan given to Letitia. They're claiming two things. One, she lied on her mortgage application for a home in Norfolk, Virginia, saying it was a primary residence. We've been through the legitimacy of this. We've told you that normally, the lendee doesn't even know what the language in the loan is. It's usually the lender who writes it. Sometimes they do shady things to get better rates so they can offer those rates to clients. Hey, come with us. We'll offer you this rate. Then we'll doctor the verbiage a little bit. But even if she's guilty of that, they have to prove she did it on purpose. They have to prove intent of fraud. They don't have to prove that there was actually a mistake in the paperwork and possibly she had claimed two primary residences. They have to prove that she intentionally committed fraud. That's very difficult. We'll get into that. They are also claiming bank fraud. They're saying not only did she claim this house in Norfolk was her primary, she signed what's called a second home rider, second home rider, which is an agreement that they won't rent out that property. They're saying she did that. They're saying she rented the property out to a three member family, and they're saying she netted about $19,000 on the deal. So, intentionally committing fraud on her loan application and bank fraud, renting out a home that was supposed to be her residence. That's what they're trying to get her on. And lawyers are saying a lot of things about this. One thing the lawyers are saying is that the dollar figure falls well short of typical federal prosecutions for bank fraud. People who get prosecuted for bank fraud, we're talking hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, not 19,000. A couple lawyers said a few things. The amount of loss in this case is small peanuts, period. Another one said the Justice Department could face challenges in establishing that James had an intent to commit fraud. The idea that someone would expose themselves to federal fraud charges for so little money doesn't really make sense. And they are right. Mortgage fraud cases are usually complex. They usually have multiple victims. More depth to the fraud than this. Usually. Okay? Now, James's legal team has already signaled that it will try to get the case thrown out. And they will definitely be interested in following the playbook of Mr. Fitzpatrick, Comey's lawyer. And we'll speak to that right now. First, the Halligan thing. If Comey's lawyers are successful in the argument that Lindsay Halligan should never have been in that position to begin with to even bring the indictments, then that certainly will apply to Miss Letitia James. Certainly. But the other thing, here's where it gets really interesting. The weaponization of the DOJ. That's the other thing they're going to try to get this case thrown out on. President Trump directed the Department of Justice to have Lindsay Halligan bring a case against Comey because Comey is Trump's political enemy. Comey has, as the lawyer said, Comey has exercised his constitutional rights in a way that Trump doesn't like. That's the other That's the other argument to get this case thrown out. Well, just this morning, right? It was just this morning? Just this morning, a source has told CNN that Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, well, they knew nothing about nothing. A source inside the DOJ has told CNN that Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche were surprised to hear that Lindsay Halligan has sought an indictment against Letitia James. Sources inside the DOJ are saying, oh, Pam thought that case was weak. Todd also thought that case was weak. They've expressed this to people within the DOJ, and they were shocked to see Lindsay Halligan going forward. And Lindsay, yeah, she'd been walking around the offices the last few days saying, hey, I'm bringing this case. Huh. What a rogue. Well, that's what they want you to think. I am just going to flat out say that this stinks. This stinks. And the smell is twofold. It's two distinct, pungent aromas mixing together for me into one stench. What are the two distinct aromas I'm talking about? One, if this case goes as poorly as it probably will, they're going to want to distance themselves from this. They're going to want to paint her as some rogue who was installed and went wild. It's going to be much tougher for them to wiggle out of the James Comey indictment and their attachment to it. That's a whole different matter. But as far as Letitia James goes, one, if this doesn't go well, Pam had nothing to do with it. But two, this, in my opinion, is a direct legal buffer. It provides legal cover. If you try to get Letitia James's case thrown out because of weaponization of the DOJ, Pam, she didn't even know. How could Trump have weaponized the DOJ and Pam Bondi if she didn't even know that Lindsay Halligan was going to bring this particular indictment? Harumph. You can't throw it out because of that. They didn't even talk. Of course they talked. Lindsay Halligan is Pam Bondi and Donald Trump's hitman. She's their hitman. Eric Siebert didn't want to get disbarred, had a little bit too much integrity. There's no there. There's no evidence. There's no case here. You want me gone? I'm out. Out. Like Sammy. I'm out. Gone. Do it. And in comes their hitman, Lindsay Halligan. Of course they knew. Get out of here. Stop. Really, Pam, how stupid do you think we are? And CNN, you know what? I'll give you credit, at least for reporting this in a neutral manner. I get why you don't want to come out in your own reporting and maybe smear your source or, contradict prior CNN reporting. You just want to report what your source has told you. I get it. So I'll go that next step for you, CNN. This is bullcrap. This is legal cover. This smells terrible. But it could be a step to avoiding having the Letitia James case thrown out on the grounds of weaponization. It's a tactical move. It stinks to high heaven, but it's a tactical move. Not a bad one. And you use the radicalized left-wing media to do it. Kudos. CNN was more than willing to come out here and report, hey, a source is telling us Pam didn't know. Okay, fine, CNN. All right, fine, Pam. I don't believe you. But fine. So, 2 counts. Letitia James has been indicted. And we're going to get into some of the nooks and crannies of this. This one is pretty interesting. As is the Comey, but in different ways. But man, if they succeed on the Halligan should have never been there, I mean, that'll bring this case to a complete halt.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. You're back with Brett Breaks Things, because silence isn't an option.
Now, Glenn Kirshner, a former federal prosecutor in Washington, said the public statements by Trump and other administration officials could help the defense. I would be shocked if this thing makes it to jury trial. I fully expect the judge to grant the motion to dismiss based on the vindictive prosecutions. Well, that may have been checkmated, Glenn Kirshner. They understand your opinion. They understand it has merit. So they headed it off at the pass with this little CNN report. Okay, fine. Let's just wait and see how this plays out with the accusation that Lindsay Halligan should have never been the interim U.S. Attorney of Eastern Virginia. Let's wait and see how that plays out. But while that plays out, don't forget, there's another investigation into Letitia James in New York on whether she violated Trump's rights when she brought the civil fraud case against him. That's one investigation, so that's two. That's one that's gone to grand jury indictment. Another one in New York cooked up over she may have violated Trump's rights. Another one, a third one. We're talking three against Letitia herself. Okay, this one is suing her office. This one's suing her office over litigation against the National Rifle Association, which led to, court mandated reforms to the way NRA does its business. They're subpoenaing her office itself for documents and evidence on that. Three cases. Why are his panties so bunched up over Letitia James? Let's just remind you, give you a little breakdown why this is happening to Letitia James. And it is of all of his sparring and tete-a-tete and back and forth with all of the prominent figures within our government and without, this has been one of the more personal and publicly accessible ones. And that really is, those two things really do lead to what you're seeing. In 2018, when she was elected AG, she said, quote, we here in New York, and I in particular, we are not scared of you, Mr. Trump. She promised to shine a bright light into every dark corner of his real estate dealings and every dealing demanding truthfulness at every turn. And indeed, in 2019, she opened a civil investigation into projects by Trump and Trump's organization. She used testimony by Michael Cohen. Remember that congressional testimony? Mr. Trump is a racist. Mr. Trump tears the tickets off mattresses. Mr. Trump doesn't return his cart. Mr. Trump, remember? And one of those was Mr. Trump falsified the value of his properties. Remember that? Letitia did. She used that congressional testimony to build her civil investigation into his fraud and fraudulently inflating his assets. That's what the case was around. And Trump and his lawyers fought that, of course. He failed to comply with one subpoena to get his records. It was a lot of back and forth. You know that. Then fast forward. So this case built during her first term. She built the case. Then she got reelected. And after she got reelected in 2022, she hit Trump with a lawsuit over inflating his assets, right? By billions of dollars, we're talking. All right? She wanted to bar Trump, his companies, his children, all from doing business in New York. He said of her at the time, Trump did, another witch hunt by racist Attorney General Letitia James. She is a fraud who campaigned on a Get Trump platform. Uh-oh. I feel my TDS kicking in. I love that platform. The TDS in me is going wild. I love the Get Trump platform. That's a platform I support. In 2024, after months-long trials, a judge found Mr. Trump liable for conspiring to manipulate his net worth, ordered him to pay $355 plus. The plus, really, it amounted all the way up to about $500 million in damages. $500 million. And Miss Letitia James at the time said, quote, this long-running fraud was intentional, egregious, and illegal. Trump said to that, from a conference in Mar-a-Lago, he called both Miss Letitia James and the judge corrupt and vowed to appeal. Okay? Now, fast forward to 2025. All right, fast forward to 2025. A criminal referral letter to the DOJ from Mr. Bill Polt. Of course. One of the first things the weaponized FHFA did was send this referral to the DOJ on Miss Letitia James' mortgage fraud. All right? April 8th, they opened the investigation. August 8th, they opened the investigation. August 21st, right after they opened this investigation, a judge threw out that $500 million fine. Yeah. All of a sudden, the court was split on it, and they threw out the fine. Now, the judge did say he is absolutely liable for the crimes he committed. He absolutely did this. And Miss James at the time said the decision, she focused on the positive, and she promised to appeal. There's no financial penalty on him. She's going to appeal that. She's going to try to get something. We'll see what the final number ends up being, but she's going to appeal that. But she focused on the positive. After the appeals court took away the fine, but then reaffirmed his guilt, she said, the decision affirmed the well-supported finding of the trial court Donald Trump, his company, and two of his children are liable for fraud. She doubled right down. And now you have her indictment. That's how that went down, piece by piece. That is why we are seeing this extraordinarily weak case against Letitia James. That's why we're seeing it. They're saying the amount of money does not in any way constitute a bank fraud prosecution. Just doesn't. And as far as the mortgage fraud goes, and her willfully and knowingly committing fraud, they're going to have a really, really hard time proving that. And there's precedent that Bill Polt has been using. A 2016 mortgage fraud case is the one he keeps pointing to for justification of these, referrals to the DOJ on all of Trump's enemies. And that's a 2016 case where a woman was a front for a criminal organization, and she was the loan holder on like multiple loans across California where they were committing this massive fraud. It had multiple victims, financial institutions, huge numbers involved. And he keeps pointing to this case, and legal experts are like, look, that case has absolutely nothing to do with what they're accusing Lisa Cook, Adam Schiff, James Comey, and Letitia James of doing. They just aren't the same. None of this is justifiable, according to precedent and legal experts. None of it. So we'll see how the case progresses, and we'll see how successful Abby Lowell, her lawyer, is in getting this case thrown out. We'll see how successful Mr. Fitzpatrick is getting Comey's case thrown out, and we'll see how Abby Lowell does and what she pulls from that, what she uses, the inspiration she can gain from how it goes with Comey. There's certainly similar cases. Now, Letitia, along with her, as Don likes to put it, witch hunt, but her successful civil lawsuit against Trump, along with that, she has been fighting the good fight. She has been fighting the fight behind the scenes, the front lines I keep talking about. And like Randy said, that's going to happen in the courts. Like you already knew, it's going to happen in the courts. And that's where it has been happening. And Letitia James, she has been a general, a 4-star general in this fight against the Trump administration. And it's not gaining the headlines. It doesn't gain the traction in the media that it should. It gets overshadowed, the fight that she specifically has been fighting. I'm going to give you some examples. One that she's fighting all by herself. Just 9 days ago, her office sued the Department of Homeland Security and its head, Kristi Noem, after they diverted millions in anti-terrorism funds from the MTA in New York, the Metropolitan Transit Authority, runs the subways and all their commuter stuff, the commuter rails and the buses. She pulled millions away from their anti-terrorism funds. On October 1st, a judge blocked that. That's a win for Letitia. You want to know why Trump hates her? I'm explaining to you right now why Trump hates her. That's a win for Letitia. And along with the wins coming out of her office by herself, she has been joining in with AGs, Democratic AGs across the country on lawsuits to block Trump policy. And they have been successful. They have been organized. About 40 times, multiple AGs have come together on a lawsuit to block Trump policy. And of those 40, 17 of them were led by Letitia James herself, headed up. She's a 4-star general in this fight. I'm going to give you some more lawsuits. I'm going to give you some more examples of the fight. There was a judge temporarily blocked Trump's wholesale reorganization of the Department of Human Health and Services. You see all these firings we've been seeing in the HHS and other FBI, DOJ. There was going to be a whole lot more in HHS. A judge blocked that. That was brought by Letitia James and her allies. In another one, a judge blocked the Department of Agriculture from demanding that states surrender sensitive personal information about millions of food stamp recipients. Trying to get your info. Trying to find out who's the ally and who's the enemy. 2 others, real quick. Another one seek to block the Trump administration's end to pediatric transgender care. And another one asked the courts to prevent the defunding of Planned Parenthood. Those are all wins by Letitia James and her allies fighting the fight for democracy. And what did she say? In a statement issued last Thursday, she said that while she aggressively fights the baseless charges against her, her office would continue to fiercely protect New Yorkers and their rights. And she said, I will continue to do my job. And you're thinking, how could that happen? She leads 1,700 people in her department, 800 lawyers. James E. Tierney, a former Maine Attorney General, who teaches about this position, said the case's impact on her job will be 0. It's not the first time that an attorney general has been indicted and continued to lead. And he pointed to Ken Paxton. In 2014, he was indicted. The AG of Texas, indicted. In 2024, he reached a deal to avoid a trial. It took that long just to reach a deal. He did his job. Letitia James is going to be able to do hers. 800 people, 800 lawyers, 1,700 people. She continues to do her job in the face of these charges.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Breaking news, breaking rules, breaking through. Back to Brett Breaks Things.
This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system. He is forcing federal law enforcement agencies to do his bidding, all because I did my job as the New York State Attorney General. These charges are baseless, and the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost. The president's actions are a grave violation of our constitutional order and have drawn sharp criticism from members of both parties. His decision to fire a United States attorney who refused to bring charges against me and replace them with someone who is blindly loyal not to the law, but to the president is antithetical to the bedrock principles of our country. This is the time for leaders on both sides of the aisle to speak out against this blatant perversion of our system of justice. I stand strongly behind my office's litigation against the Trump Organization. We conducted a 2-year investigation based on the facts and evidence, not politics. Judges have upheld the trial court's finding that Donald Trump, his company, and his 2 sons are liable for fraud.
That's right, double down.
I'm a proud woman of faith, and I know that faith and fear cannot share the same space. And so today, I'm not fearful. I'm fearless.
Mm-mm-mm.
And as my faith teaches me, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. We will fight these baseless charges aggressively, and my office will continue to fiercely protect New Yorkers and their rights. And I will continue to do my job.
Yep. And Mr. Tierney, the Harvard law professor, says, yeah, she probably can. 1,700 people under her, 800 lawyers. She's going to do her job. She's going to continue with those cases that I talked to you about. She's going to continue fighting the fight. She is a hero. She's a hero. I don't think that's radicalized left-wing rhetoric. Letitia James is a hero. I'm not going to parse that. And that's what she should be saying. Fearless. And she should be fearless because the case is garbage and it's going to have trouble getting to trial. So, we've talked about the people that Trump is attacking through Bill Pulte, through Pam Bondi, other AGs, other investigations. But there has been a common theme to Trump's attacks and firings. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. And I usually keep race out of most of my discussion. I usually don't sprinkle race onto every conversation I have. First of all, I'm an unknowable brown man myself. I don't claim to have particular insight or knowledge into white culture or black culture or Spanish culture. You don't know what culture I know. And I'm not claiming to have special knowledge of anybody else's and their perspectives and how they feel about things. So in that vein, let's just take a look at what's happening. Lisa Cook, influential, powerful, outspoken black woman. Fani Willis, powerful, black woman. Letitia James, powerful black woman. Let's take a look at some of Trump's firings. Joint Chief of Staff Charles Q. Brown, Jr., black man, replaced by Dan Kane, straight white man. Straight white man. I don't know if he's straight, but you get what I'm saying. White man. In the Library of Congress, Carla Hayden, black woman, replaced by Todd Blanche, white man. National Labor Relations Board, Gwen Wilcox, black woman, replaced by Scott Mayer and James Murphy, two white men. Double down on that one. Federal Energy Regulation Commission, Willie L. Phillips, black man, replaced by David Lacarte, white man. National Transportation Safety Board, Alvin Brown, black man, replaced by John DeLue, white man. Are you seeing a pattern here? Leaving any racial commentary out of it and just looking at what's happening, do you see a pattern? And when you look at black appointments by presidents, I encourage you to go look at those numbers. There were some charts, some graphs. I didn't want to get deep into it. But I want you to go look at the difference, not only from Trump and Obama's administration's appointments and hiring of black men and women versus Trump's, but George W. Bush's, other Republican presidents overwhelmingly out-hire Trump when it comes to black men and women. There is a theme here. I have no problem pointing it out. Period. There is a theme. You know who they're not attacking? Who they're not bringing charges against? Who Bill Pulte isn't investigating? Trump allies, specifically people in Trump's administration. Who am I talking about? We did the story 3 weeks ago. We talked about it 3 weeks ago. Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer, mortgage fraud. She committed it. Same exact thing that they're trying to get Letitia on for Lori Chavez DeRemer. Sean Duffy, primary residences, 2 different residences. Same thing with Lisa Cook. Lee Zeldin, Environmental Protection Agency Administrator. 2 primary residences on loans. See patterns forming? Bill Pulte, out of his own mouth, when talking about this mortgage fraud, if somebody is claiming 2 primary residences, that is not appropriate, and we will refer it for criminal investigation. He said that just last month. The details on these 3 people have been out for months. So where's the investigation, Bill? Let's get that rolling. You got a weaponization czar put in a position to make sure our agencies aren't weaponized. So where's Ed Martin saying, hey, Bill, you can't weaponize the FHFA. You got to go after these people too. Where is it? We're waiting. We're waiting. All three of them denied wrongdoing. All three of them did. And a statement from the White House said, this is just another hit piece from a left-wing dark money group that constantly attempts to smear President Trump's incredible cabinet members. Unlike Lisa Corrupt Cook, who blatantly and intentionally committed mortgage fraud, Secretary DeRemer, Secretary Duffy, and Administrator Zeldin own multiple residences, and they have followed the law, and they are fully compliant with all ethical obligations. All right, great. Then launch an investigation to make sure that's true. White House is saying it's true. Why don't you launch an investigation? Shouldn't be a big problem. You're confident that they're all innocent. Let's go, Bill. Let's go, Pam. Let's go. Refer these investigations to some AGs. Let's get started. The hypocrisy is so palpable. It's so thick you could cut it up and serve it out to people. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. You know who else? You know who else has two residences? Mr. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary. Scott Bessent. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yup, another one. Documents show that on the same day in September 2007, Bessent agreed that homes in both Bedford Hills, New York, and Provincetown, Massachusetts, each would be his primary residence. This is a report out of Bloomberg and CNBC. Yep, Bessent. Now, here's the thing. The same things we said about Lisa Cook's primary mortgage loans hold true for Bessent. You would have such a hard time nailing Bessent down on knowable fraud. We don't even know who wrote the language, who agreed to what. He could have been taken advantage of in the manner that many are, like I've described to you, where the loan agent adjusts the verbiage without the lendees knowing it. They might not even know that two primary residences have been recorded here in the loan. So just like Lisa, this would be so hard to hold him to account for. His personal attorney blasted the report. He said nearly 20 years ago, Mr. Bessent's lawyers filled out paperwork properly. The bank has confirmed it was done properly, and this nonsensical article reaches the conclusion that this was all done properly. Well, yeah, mortgage fraud experts are saying, yeah, we actually don't see any fraud by Bessent on this, and it's exactly the same for Lisa Cook. We don't see any fraud there either. Maybe that's why Lisa Cook has yet to be charged. Maybe that's why she has yet to be charged. Maybe that's why Bessent has yet to be charged. Maybe that's why Comey and James should never have been charged. So, Lee Zeldin, Duffy, they all did it. Bessent, everybody does it apparently. Apparently, it's the most prevalent crime amongst the upper crust in America. I don't know. Everybody's doing it. It's what's hot in the streets right now. Mortgage fraud. Two primary residences. I hope I achieve that level of accomplishment where I too can go out and fraudulently claim that I have two primary residences. I can't wait to be lumped in with these prestigious people in the administration, our Treasury Secretary, all these AGs, Congressmen. I can't wait to be amongst them. Maybe I too will achieve that level. Everybody's doing it. It's what's hot in the street. But we're not done with Mr. Bessent. No, we're just getting started with Scott Bessent. We're just getting started.
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back tomorrow to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things, pushing back, speaking up, and holding the line.
All right. So, Scott Bessent. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. You may have heard the news. Scott Bessent and the United States has made a deal with Argentina. Argentina, remember Milei? Chainsaw-wielding little dictator Milei? Yeah, we have decided not only are we going to prop up the peso, which has lost around 27% of its value against the dollar in 1 year. We're gonna invest in the peso in global markets. We're also gonna do a change of currency. We're gonna exchange $20 billion of currency in a swap with the Argentinian Central Bank. And this agreement with the bank is essentially a $20 billion loan, payable whenever. We have agreed to prop up the peso and give Argentina $20 billion. Okay? Now, some people feel some type of way about this. Economist Brad Setzer, who served in the Treasury Department under Obama, questioned the decision to buy pesos when many other investors consider it likely to lose more value, and said it was a bad idea to lend money to a nation that has a long history of reneging on its government debt. Argentina has defaulted on or restructured its sovereign debt 5 times since 1982. Why? Why Argentina? Why Milei? Why $20 billion for Milei? They won't put any money into the continuing resolution to extend the ACA subsidies. That's $350 billion. They won't put any money back into Medicare, Medicaid. The Democrats are asking for $1 trillion. They won't give back some of the public broadcasting money, the billions that they clawed back from that. They won't do any of that. They will kick your grandmother out of her home care. They will do that. They'll kick your uncle off his Medicaid. They'll do that. They'll double your premiums or take your subsidies away in the ACA altogether. They'll do that. And they'll give a $20 billion loan to Milei and Argentina. Just let that sink in. $20 billion for them. Our government shut down right now, but we got $20 billion for Argentina. Why? Why Argentina? Don't forget, Argentina, they have a special relationship with the United States. Milei and Trump, they are BFFs. Flat out. They're BFFs. Milei, he has styled himself as a libertarian, anti-establishment, anti-woke populist. And his rhetoric echoes the rhetoric of Donald Trump time and time again. Politically, they are aligned. Milei sees Trump as a political role model, okay? And a lot of his domestic policy is right in line with what Trump's doing here today, okay? President Trump has said Milei's my favorite president. He's my favorite. Milei he's gone to U.S. conservative events. He spoke at CPAC. He visited Mar-a-Lago. He participates in Republican-led agendas and gatherings. Trump and Milei, they've had multiple face-to-face meetings. Just recently in February, they had one in the White House. Milei, one of the first to back Trump's presidential election, then was the first person to show up at the White House in February to congratulate him. First of all these presidents. Yep. Argentina, Milei, pulls out of the World Health Organization. Sound like somebody? Sound like anybody you know? They have been described as having a personal relationship, best friends, admiration for each other. Personal favor from Don to Milei. So, Argentina was able to drop some of its export tariffs. Was able to drop some of its export tariffs because its pesos had been backed up. What effect did that have? Well, when this $20 billion loan to Argentina was being cooked up and finally decided on, it was about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. It had been decided on. We're going to do this. Now, it's been finalized now. You're hearing about it now. It's been finalized. But it was decided on a little over 2 weeks ago. And even then, Bessent and his subordinates, specifically the U.S. the U.S. Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins, they knew exactly what effect this was going to have on the farmers. They knew that because in comes China. In comes China. You may be aware that soybean farmers are pretty upset right now about the tariffs. They're very upset. They can't sell their soybeans because China won't buy them anymore because of Trump's tariff war. China, who was responsible for about $12.6 billion in soybean purchases, has now stopped buying our soybeans, period. Period. And what does Argentina do with the $20 billion? They drop their export tariffs and then sell billions of dollars of soybeans to China. Let that sink in. China was already feeling pressure of their own because of their hard stance against us. You want to tariff us, exceptionally? Fine. We, your largest buyer of soybeans, will stop buying them, period. They were feeling pressure from that. They needed soybeans. They weren't buying them from us. We give Argentina $20 billion. They drop their extraordinary export tariffs and China buys their soybeans. And the farmers are out of their mind. And this was something that Scott Bessent and Miss Rollins knew was going to happen because there were pictures taken of messages between Miss Rollins and Scott Bessent. Pictures taken of their messages and leaked. CNN reporting on it. You want to hear what the text said? I know you do. Just a heads up. I am getting more intel, but this is highly unfortunate. We bailed out Argentina yesterday, and in return, the Argentines removed their export tariffs on grains, reducing their price to China at a time when we would normally be selling to China, the message from Rollins said. She continued, soy prices are dropping further because of it. This gives China more leverage on us. I'm on a plane now, but I can call you when I land. So 2.5, almost 3 weeks ago, they knew what was going to happen here. They called it. They saw it playing out. They knew that the farmers would catch wind of this. They directly hurt the soybean industry so Trump could give a $20 billion loan to his buddy, Milei. And when I say the farmers caught wind of this, believe me, I mean the farmers caught wind of this. Everybody started to catch wind of this. Trump was hip to this. That's why Trump is coming out here saying now, oh, well, we're going to take some of our tariff money and we're going to bail out the farmers. To all of you MAGA out there that like to call people communists, that is communism. Your president is doing this. Not Kamala Harris, not Obama, not Biden, Trump. And it's an extra little kick in the balls for the farmers. Their prices on farm equipment and fertilizer and the things they need to create the soybeans, they've all gone up because of the tariffs. All the prices on everything they need to create their crop has gone up. And the money Trump collected on those tariffs, he's going to turn around and give back to them in a bailout. He created the crisis, and now he's going to be the hero. I mentioned it briefly in a show 1 week ago where I did my insulting country accent, where some MAGA is going to go to the water cooler and say, Trump just saved us. He just saved us. Did you hear about the bailout? No, he bleeped you. And he took the money from bleeping you, and now he's going to dole it out in a pittance using our cash. That's communism. Trump stopped saving you. Trump bleeped you. Let's get all that clear. And the farmers, when I tell you that they have caught wind of this, they have caught wind of this. And Fox is out here trying to mitigate the damage. Of course they are. They're trying to spin. They're trying to get the propaganda machine rolling because this one sucks. I've addressed the military in the past few weeks. How do you feel about Pete Hegseth? How do you feel about Trump getting 800 generals and admirals together in one place at one time? Tactical error, in my opinion. And then giving them the philosophical rhetoric and spin and propaganda, expecting them to soak it up. Talking about no more rules of engagement, no more telling on any superiors for anything. And by the way, women will be held to the same physical standards as men. Oh, no more women in the military? Oops. How do you in the military feel about him trampling the First Amendment? And you've spoken to me and you've reached out to me, some of you, and you've told me just how you felt about it. So now farmers, another huge section of the American population who has propped up this president, voted for this president time and again, the farmers, how do you feel? He's doing it to you again. He did this last time with China and bailed you out. He's doing it again. And Fox is out here trying to mitigate the damage. Of course.
Look, 8 years ago, they were our #1 customer. They took almost 40% of our soybeans 8 years ago, and now they take 0.
That's right. In 2018, with President Trump's first round of tariffs on China, at that moment, China was the largest export market for American soy. And they bought 60% of our soybean exports. And they are essentially, exports have collapsed this year, and there are no new orders logged in recent months. And quite frankly, unless something happens to reopen new markets for these farmers, you can't bail people out. That's how much you're going to give them that every year. I mean, you could do that. The tariff revenue is running about, on average in the last couple of months, about $30 billion a month. But do the farmers want welfare? Because that's what it is.
So this is you're in a trade war, right? And this is the casualty of it now. And so China's using this as leverage because that's how you're going to put pressure on Trump.
Yes. Yeah. The farmers are the casualty of his trade war. Absolutely. Guys like Ron Kindred. He owns farms on 1,700 acres, corn, soybeans, central Illinois. He is contracted to sell about 40% of his crop. 60% of it is a complete gamble. He is desperately trying to find buyers. That's how important China was to his business. He's going to lose over half his crop possibly if he can't find a buyer to at least break even, considering the raise in prices on animal feed and equipment and everything that's gone up because of the tariffs. He's got to try to break even. He has traveled personally to Vietnam, the Philippines. He's begging these economies to buy his soybeans. The next two largest buyers of American soybeans are the European Union and Mexico. They only account for $5 billion. China was $12.6 billion. What's Ron going to do now?
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks things will be back Monday to break it all down.